Very well.
If you want to say hello, Deputy Mayor.
Hello.
Well, isn't this weird? I'm, I'm glad you've managed to join us somehow, Deputy Mayor. Thank you. So we'll start at the top of that, and we'll just go line by line down. And if there's anywhere you want to stop, we'll stop and talk. If you're comfortable with the number, we will just move on and assume that that's the number we're going to go with. So Quinte Saleability, the budget last year was $1,100. The budget request this year is $1,000. Does anyone want to talk about that? Are we comfortable with $1,000? Soho, Proctor House. Ms. Woodfield, you can hear the Deputy Mayor if she has a question, because I can't.
Deputy Mayor, if you have any questions, I'm sure I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you
And can you hear the meeting?
slightly.
Okay, I've got you close to the speaker and I'll turn you up a bit more.
Thank you. So the next line item is Soho Proctor House. Last year's budget was $10,000. The request this year is $12,000. My understanding is this primarily pays for insurance costs. I'm not maybe a little bit extra, but I think it's primarily insurance. Are we comfortable with 12? Do we have any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you. Not so much maybe to Proctor House, but there again, that's kind of one of my questions around Lower Trent. Maybe this is something that Councillor Tadman or Councillor Bateman can answer. Proctor House, the building itself sits within Lower Trent Conservation, right?
Your microphone, please.
It's municipal property, the actual home sits on, but the area around it is Lower Trent. Well,
Okay.
It's everybody's, but Lower Trent
Right.
looks after it.
So Soho they're not connected in any way with Lower Trent as far as maintenance, ground maintenance, or anything like that.
No,
Just-
not for their area.
They take care of their own leased property.
Least, you said.
I believe the land is leased from the Lower Trent. That's what I read anyway.
Okay.
Is it?
Yeah, the property, the Proctor House itself is on Lower Trent property,
Right.
and Soho
yeah, okay.
leases it back. They have like a 100-year lease or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty cheap.
And there's
lease.
okay, Laura's trying to answer.
Say again, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, it's about $1 a year, some menial amount that they lease it for.
That's certainly not a budget concern then, is it?
No.
That's not a budget concern, no.
Okay, I thought there was something there. I was just wondering how much of it Soho would have to give back to Lower Trent for one thing, but that clears up one of my questions.
We could lower their budget to $11,999 if you wanted, but I think that would be a little silly, so we won't do that. Everyone comfortable with the $12,000 for Soho? Sunny Days Camp, $3,000 last year, asking for $5,000 this year. Any conversation points on that? Councillor Tadman?
I don't have any, but do we have some report saying why people are increasing in all of these? There's increases? Because I don't want to look like I'm nickel and diming
Right.
people.
So each one of these grant and aid requests came with its own
I didn't get those for some
application
reason.
form. It should be in your budget binder. It was given to us at the end of, during the last capital budget meeting.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Okay.
I didn't get the report from each one of
The grant and aid
Sundays.
reports?
Yeah. You think it's in here?
All right, everybody moving
Oh,
around
here.
needs a mask
Okay, I
on.
thought it was here. Sorry. Sorry about that. I guess it's down deep in my binder, which
Okay.
I haven't got to. I was just using tonight's. So it's $2,000, and I understand that it has been explained why they need the extra.
Are we comfortable with the 2,000, the additional 2,000 for sunny days? Anyone not? I'm gonna move on. Supper's Ready received 3,000 last year, and this year is requesting 5. Any conversation there? I'm gonna move on. If not,
I do.
go ahead.
I think, can we split that and do 4? Do they need to have all of, I know it's $1,000, but it's
Yeah.
$1,000, right?
There's a representative in the chamber from Supper's Ready, Mr. Street. Would you like to come forward
Well,
and address
yeah,
that?
I would then like to hear the reason. Thank
There
you.
you Mr. Street? The microphone right there while if you want. And the clerk will help you navigate the sound system.
Thank you. We weren't really, I wasn't prepared to speak tonight anyways on this, but we just wanted to make a mention that due to the, again, like most programs with the COVID situation, we are finding a situation where we are going on a drive-through basis this year and not a social basis. Generally, we've been able to pull in usually enough money during during the nights of the social visits that allowed us to pretty well break even with the expenses that were involved on a weekly basis. But we're finding ourselves falling behind approximately about $800 to $1,000 a month right now. Now, we are a free supper program that we do have, but at the present time, the way we are going with the situation, that we're going to be really dropping in funds by the end of June, and knowing not what's going to happen in September, that's why we're asking for the increase for this year. Again, it's just until probably this COVID is over. We are happy with the 3,000, but we would like to kind of increase it to the 5 if we could. Any questions?
Sorry, Anderson.
I just ask, are your numbers, because you're doing the drive-through, are the numbers up or down during
The
COVID?
numbers are definitely down. We usually are averaging approximately about 100, 125 people at a supper during the social times that we do have. Right now with the drive-through, we are averaging only about 80 as it is, and donations are not coming in the way they were before. They were coming in a lot less than what we have had before. As I've stated, it's approximately about $200 a week, or on a 4-week or 5-week period, we're looking at $800 to $1,000 per month that we are losing on this. And to keep it going, that's what we're looking at right now.
Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, it's just so your numbers are down, your costs are down, but
Costs are not down.
well, if you do,
Our costs, we are still spending out for the cook each week.
oh, yeah.
And
No.
any expenses that are involved.
Sorry,
etc.
yeah, I was just thinking food cost, I was just thinking.
No, that's all
No,
the
no,
same,
you-
yeah.
I'm sorry, I jumped the gun on that one.
Yeah, no, that's
But,
okay.
no, fair enough, thank you, that's good.
Okay.
Any other questions while Mr. Street's up there? Mr.
ahead,
Councilor
please.
LeBlanc?
Thank you. I'm just going to check my memory here, and maybe you can help me.
Sure, go ahead.
Wasn't it last year or the year before you asked for 5,000?
We
Yeah,
did.
and the council cut it to 3,000.
That's correct. And that was at the time when we were, I would say, financially pretty stable. We're happy to get it. This year, because of the fact that we're losing funds on a monthly basis quite substantially, the money is going to be running out. But again, like I say, by June, we'll still be okay. But we start getting into September, we're not sure where we're going to sit. But again, we're satisfied with the fact that you give us 4, that's fine, but it's just a stipend we need right now just to make sure that we don't find ourselves falling into in a situation where we can't afford to keep the, it's all a volunteer basis totally. So it's basically expenses right now that are hurting us, and the fact that we're not getting free will offerings is what we've had in the past from the social gatherings that we do get from Supper's Ready. Hopefully if we do get the vaccinations and we do get things running smooth again, then we will get back to what we are. But right now we're in such a state that we're not sure where we're going on this. And that's why we are asking for the $2,000 extra.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Thank you.
Councillor Anderson?
You said June, by June, you'd be okay, but I think in light of what's going on and the unknown, I think if we, this year, we gave them a little bit of a comfort zone and went along with the 5,000, and next year, hopefully things are back. We might cut it back the next year, but I think I would support the 5,000 this year for a service that they provide. Is could be very needy in the coming months ahead. Could be a long winter.
Councillor Tadman.
Thank you, Mayor. And sir, is this shared by all the other churches in Brighton?
Basically, we run this strictly by Suppers Ready as a separate entity in itself. We only run out of Trinity St. Andrews United Church.
But is there funds come from other churches?
No, absolutely not.
It's
No.
totally,
It's basically free will that we get the money. Plus, I will say from grants that are given to us through the municipality here and through Brian Todd.
and there's no
To be clear,
charge?
Suppers Ready is its own charity, not a part of Trinity St. Andrews.
Yes, it is. It's its own charity. It's run through community members throughout Brighton and through the church itself, members from the church.
But it's free. But
Yes,
you
totally
You
free.
rely on donations.
Oh, yes, free will donations,
Okay.
yes. And grants where we can get any extra donations from individual or through the municipality.
Right. And is my memory correct that the actual person that cooks is that person employed with a salary?
Yes, she gets a salary, a weekly salary from us.
Right,
And we
okay.
call it an allowance, but yes, it is a salary basically. More or less, it's an allowance we give her. They call it an allowance.
It's paid for.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Can you hear me?
Ken?
Go ahead.
Not so much a question as in general. This type of service is something that we really need, I think, in the community right now. So as much as we're trying to keep our budget low, and we are, and I get that, but these certain things I think are really needed.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Bateman?
Actually, I was just going to echo what Deputy Mayor Vink said, because I've said it in the earlier deliberations. There's people in need, and there's going to be people in need even more. And thank you for providing this service in the first place.
You're very welcome.
And I think we need to put this in there now.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman. Any other questions for Mr. Street? Go ahead.
Just a little accolades all over the place because community care also provides Meals on Wheels. I think Brighton as a whole is quite charitable, and I hope they all keep up the good work.
We hope all your donors come back, and for this year, it looks like you're safe, but we'll see where it goes.
Great. Thank you
Thank you,
very much.
Mr. Street.
Thank you to all. Thank you.
So everyone's comfortable with 5 for now? Okay, we're moving on. The Beacon Youth Center, 6,000 last year, 6,500 this year. Any questions, comments? Members of council? Councillor Bateman?
I would just say the same thing that I said about the other one. And it's, I don't know that Mr. Green, has it reopened yet or no?
Thank you, David Green. We closed March break. We are hoping to open. We have to get both Health Center and the Fire Department to approve it, but it's our intention to open one evening a week later in November and go to 2 evenings a week in January. None of our volunteers feel comfortable with the youth coming over at lunch. They are not respecting social distancing. They're not respecting mask wearing. And it would be very difficult for us to keep it at 10. Whereas in the evening program, because we're not dealing with bus students, we're dealing with local students, we feel we can get 8 students along with 2 volunteers in. So we plan to open later in November, once we get Health Center and Fire Department approval, and then again, opening 2 nights a week come January. Right now, we're just trying to keep the lights on. Our donor base has slowed down a fair
Like
bit.
everyone else, your donor base has dried up, but your expenses still exist.
Well, we've been very lucky. The donor base hasn't dried up yet, Mayor, but it's beginning to dwindle to the point where we've had to reach into reserves that we've had in the past few years.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Don't go anywhere just in case you can answer these questions. Councillor Tedman?
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Green. I understand also there is a program going on with the leader of the Beacon over at
Yes,
The
one day a
committee.
week. The director of the Beacon meets with youth at the Rotary stand in the park. We bring them donuts, we have some box drinks, and we just sort of chat and try and give them a place to go. It's very, very strict. Those that won't wear a mask and won't socially distance are not allowed to stay. And we're finding more and more respect because the youth are finding that at least I've got a place to go, so I've got a couple of rules I got to follow. I can deal with that, has been their attitude. So Mike is over there every Wednesday, I think between 11 and 1. And the weather's been cooperating, so
So far, so good.
so far so good. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just had a quick follow.
Go ahead.
In a nutshell, I support this, and I'm hopefully that you can open sooner than later, because that's one of those organizations that provide a service, for a lack of better words, to some marginalized youth. It's a place where they can meet, maybe their only hot meal of the day. So hopefully that you can get that back open soon.
We're all hoping the same. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Green. So everyone's comfortable with 65. Moving on. Sorry, Deputy Mayor, did I see your hand? No? Oh, thumbs up. Got it. Thank you. I just caught it out of the corner of my eye. The next is the Waterfront Regeneration Trust, 500 last year, 500 this year. Everyone comfortable with that? No objections? Horticultural Society, 700 last year, 700 this year. Everyone comfortable with that? No objections? Brighton Community Care, 5,000 last year, 5,000 this year. Any objections there? Everyone okay with that? ENSS Hope Project, nothing for this year. Brighton Auxiliary Rescue Unit, again, a boat slip and a request for a $3,750 grant. Any discussion there? Moving right along. Pioneers Retriever Club, nothing last year, $1,000 this year. Any questions there? Councillor Bateman?
My only question was, is this for an event? Because is this group that put on an event out in the rural area?
I think they do 1 or 2 events every year. Yeah, and they're up near the, in and near the wildlife area, Brighton Provincial Wildlife Area. Ms. Whitfield, did you have a comment?
I believe this group did receive a grant from council last year, but it was after the budget process.
Right. In or around the same amount of money?
Correct. That's correct.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, did I see your hand?
Yes, so is this, if this is for an event again, if the event's not able to happen, will we still send out the funds? I guess that's what I'm wondering. If we approve it, are we just sending them 1,000? Maybe Mrs. Whitfield could answer that.
Ms. Whitfield?
So council has it in the grant and aid policy that any monies that are not spent, like if an event is canceled, then they should be returning those funds to us. But we would still send out the money because we don't know if it's going to be canceled or not.
And we have had monies returned to us for things that have been canceled or monies that haven't been spent. It's not very often, but it has happened in the past. It happened this year, I think, for something last year. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. $1,000 for work with the Pioneer Club. Yeah. And Bridge Hospice Vision, and I guess we can talk about that line item later, others for future. So I'm flipping down to Brighton Community Policing. 4,100 last year, $1,000 this year. Everyone comfortable with that? Councillor Rowley? Mr. Green?
Mr. Green, I think you're there, right? Why?
You were very generous last year, and we haven't spent any money. So all our events have been canceled. We did receive a grant from the Ministry of Transportation. We have been able to put the distracted driving simulator. We are so ready to go. It is scary, but we haven't had a chance to go anywhere.
Right.
We still can't participate in the schools. We've got some literature that we're being printed that we're going to ask the library and the municipalities within Northumberland County to distribute for us, more of a reminder. And right now, we did not spend the money you allocated to us last year. And all we're looking for right now is just some rent subsidy and our insurance. And we're debating, and I have to talk to Mr. Castleman, we're debating as to whether or not we need to get insurance if we're not doing anything we need to be insured for. But I will talk with him and get his advice.
Councillor Rowley?
Just one more question, David. You said rent subsidy. Do you have a place in town that you rent then?
We have a storage unit where we've kept all of the material that we've got for the distracted driving simulator because we can't get into the OPP detachment.
Okay.
The simulator is being stored in Trenton for us right now at their community policing office.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? We okay with the $1,000? Campbellford Memorial Hospital Foundation, request was 10 last year. It's 15 this year, 15,000 this year. Everyone okay there?
I should clarify that that was actually what was approved last year. It's not necessarily the request.
Right. Understood. Yeah, the budgeted item was $10,000. The request this year is 15. Any questions there? Objections? Comments? Stays in at 15 for now. Trent Memorial Hospital Foundation remains. Northumberland Hills Hospital, the budget approval was 10 last year. The request is 20 this year. Any comments or questions? We leave it in at 20 for now. We'll move on to cemeteries. And I should probably turn the microphone over. Councillor Tadman, would you mind taking the microphone as the senior member, ma'am?
I've looked over at these amounts. Is anybody want to question anyone, or do you want to go about line by line? Did you ask her? Oh, Laura,
Yes. Okay.
I was asking the rest of council, would you be satisfied with all the amounts that they asked for the cemeteries, or do you want to go line by line?
No, I'm satisfied. Just, you're still all going in and out a little bit. Can I ask a question overall for a second, seeing as I have audio?
You can do anything you want.
Oh,
because you're
great.
sick.
I guess when we're all done, I do have a question for Ms. Whitfield as far as number one, are all of these, is everyone who applied a registered charity or not-for-profit, and have they all sent in all of the info that we require? So that is something I would like answered before we make a final decision. You don't have to do it right now. I'm just asking while I have audio.
Okay. Do you have any information about that?
So you don't have to be a registered charity to receive funds from the municipality. So that's not one of the requirements, but we do have a requirement that there's an appropriate cash handling policy, and that their board has passed that. So there has to be 2 signatures on, checks to be cashed, et cetera. So we have that process in place. We have no new applicants, so everybody's provided that to us already.
Right.
And so I'm satisfied that they've met the requirements. They've all sent in financial information for council to look at and consider. And I didn't see anything, I didn't flag anything that looked awry.
You satisfied with that then, Mrs. Vink, Deputy Mayor, whatever other titles you have?
Yes.
Thank you. How about everybody else? okay with all the, or
Thank you, Councillor Tadman. So the grand total comes out to exactly what we see it there, $118,000. The only question I would ask is last year we put an additional amount of money in abeyance just in case there were future requests. And does council want to consider that again this year? Last year, the amount was $10,550. The amount under our budget policy would be in the $23,000 range if we wanted to put that much in. Councillor Anderson? We would just be putting it, we'd set aside budgetary monies for future requests during the year. We often get 2 or 3 during the year. Right. Microphone.
We have a ceiling, we'd have to put that budget number.
Right. Because if we don't, then it's not budgeted.
Yeah, I agree. That's right. I'll agree with.
Councillor Tadman?
I think with the type of year it is and we're trying to keep expenses down, I would say no more than 10,000.
Okay.
I don't think we need the full amount.
I hear 10,000. Councillor LeBlanc?
I agree with it because last year hospice came and asked for money that they required. That was done last year and stuff because we had the reserves, and I think we should build the reserve. If it's 10,000 or 10,500, I'm okay with it.
So I hear another 10 or maybe 10.5 over here. Emily, Councillor Rowley?
Yeah, thank you. I'm good with that also. If I can just ask, is this all tax support dollars, Linda?
Yes, and
So-
that's adding it to your 0%.
Right,
So if
so
you started at 0, now you've added.
we're at like one and a bit, right? Because 94 is 1. So if we add 10, we're at 128. So we're at 1.5%. I do agree. I do agree. We need to put something away. Like I say, some of these places, and I know with hospice in particularly too, a lot of their fundraisers were like down the tubes, right? Just they can't get stuff done. So I definitely agree that we need to put at least 10,000 away.
It's tough to fundraise when you can't get people together. That's for sure. Everyone okay with $10,000? I'm hearing that's sort of the consensus. Deputy Mayor, are you okay with 10, adding 10 in there?
Yes, 10 max.
So on that line item above community sports, set aside for future requests, $10,000, which brings our total budget item to $128,000. All right, if we're all comfortable with that, do we need a motion on that? No, that will all get added into our operational budget, correct? Okay. So we'll flip over to external budgets, which is Schedule B in your the large handout that was given to you a week or so ago. That includes Library Board, Police Services Board, OPP Contract, Quinte Access, Lower Trent, QEDC, and DBIA, which is its own tax support item. So, see y'all later. Amazing what happens when you approve everyone's budget. They just leave. Well, hopefully they don't go spending their money yet. That's all. That's all we have to say on that. So we'll start with the Library Board. And everyone was asked to hold to 0. All of our committees and boards were asked to hold to 0. Now some are significantly external, unlike our Library Board, which is a pretty good partner. And they managed to hold to a little less than 0. Last year's budget was $465,937, and this year it's $1,000 less. Everyone okay with that? I guess my only question to the board would be, are there any services or programs that you won't be able to conduct by holding to this 0%? That have been considered by the board is what I mean. Not, don't be pulling stuff out of your hat, Heather.
Thank you for your question. The short answer on that is no, but I would say that we have decreased several of our budget lines, such as professional development and travel, because we think those will look different in 2021. But when I looked ahead to 2021, I didn't think that was the year to do a lot of new things. So we are comfortable with the budget that we've come in at.
Thank you. Any other questions for the CEO before she sits down? No? We all comfortable with this budget that's been presented? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Heather. Police Services Board held the line 3162 and 3162. Everyone okay there? OPP contract went from $1,866,863 to $1,880,423. Not much we can do to push back on that. It's a billable amount. Go ahead.
It's actually the same budget amount because they have a contract with us. But what they do is they bill back for previous periods, the difference between the budget and the actual.
So we're getting dinged for some overtime and things like that. We did have a conversation at one point about adding services, additional services to the OPP, and that was going to be, if I said about $250,000, I think I'm around right, maybe 200 grand. Councillor Anderson, did you have a question before I?
You're correct. We did discuss that, and it is something to think about. We know what we went through last summer with the parking, the traffic, the people, all that. We got another year coming up. Policing was at its low level all summer because I understand they had some sickness and they had officers on vacation, and at some points there was only one police officer on the whole weekend. I can't validate that, but that's the information I received. Well, I think at times this community is growing. I'm hearing about, I'm just going to speak just briefly on this because you brought it up. It's, if we just stall where we are on the level of policing that we've got, a lot of demand requests are because about traffic, speeding, all these things. Thank goodness nobody's getting killed or anything to get everybody really excited. But we're at a point now, and then we have all these issues with still COVID going into probably another 6 months to a year at least. So are we satisfied that we have a good level of policing? Are we, and then a reason I brought up about the staffing levels, we will get a credit back, won't we? If those officers weren't working, and if they're going to the, well, I was talking, if they're going to the 401 as well. And I know we had an incident here just 2 nights ago where the troops came pouring in the Brighton to satisfy, and that is covered under our contract. So yeah, that makes up for a lot of the shortfalls maybe. And I understand how that works. But it's something at budget time to think about. And I'm glad the mayor brought it up. Should we be considering it? I know we want to keep the budget where it is. It's a lot of money. One officer can cost, just his pay is over $100,000, or their pay, not his, whoever that is. So just to get a rookie, and that's just one officer. We're not talking 7 days a week and all this type of thing. So should we think about it, or should we just table it and say we're satisfied with the level of policing that we have? Are we satisfied with the quality? I think the quality is there. I know they seem to respond to any hardships or problems that we do have very well, but I'm just saying, do we have enough enforcement, and do we have enough general protection?
So the question council needs to answer is, do we want enhanced policing under the OPP contract, or are we satisfied with
For
the
this year.
existing contract for this year? And understanding that that's, do you remember what the number was, Linda, by chance? It was around the $200,000 mark. 174? Okay. So is that something we want to consider for this year, or are we satisfied? Councillor LeBlanc.
Yes, it's enhanced policing, and it's for 2 police officers for the year. And it's 174,000. That's what we discussed the last time. That's one thing that we have to debate, and we have to debate with this COVID and the budget and what we got to do. Is this the year to do it? But it's got to be done eventually, because with all the policing and stuff that we got to do. So
I would agree. I certainly don't get less complaints about speeding than I did 4 years ago. And if we don't do something with enhanced enforcement, we're going to get more requests to have speed limits reduced to 20 or 30 kilometers an hour, or more stop signs. And more stop signs mean we need more enforcement, but we are not adding enforcement. So these are things we need to think about. Councillor Tadman.
I think for me personally, I'm satisfied with the service we're getting right now, especially because it's going to cost so much and raise taxes so much at this time.
Thank you. Councillor Rowley?
Thank you, Mayor. Just looking at page 19 of 62 that we received today, or the other day. Looking at our policing reserve, we're going to be at nothing. How do we build that back up, Linda? Like, is that something that we have to kind of focus on getting money from other places? Because it looks like here, within 2 years, we're not going to have anything. We're not going to have anything left. We're going to have to look for those extra balances somewhere, right, when it comes to policing costs. So how do we kind of, regardless of whether we enhance policing year to year, how do we kind of rebuild that reserve so that we are prepared for the big increases, regardless of having extra enhanced policing?
Ms. Whitfield?
So that reserve was actually built based on the savings that we were generating. So we were paying for a contract and then the actuals were lower and they would give us a rebate. And we would take that rebate and put it into a reserve for that purpose, for this type of situation where we start seeing the contract increase year over year. So to build it, one would hope that we would have some more of those years where the cost is lower. Now, interestingly enough, though, the police are, the OPP and their billing now are actually giving you that monthly. So if it's an increase in your contract, you don't see a rebate or you don't see an increased like invoice. They do it over the 12 months. And if it's a rebate, you don't see that rebate. They just kind of do it over the 12 months and you get it on a piece of paper. So I think what we have to do is focus on those rebate years and try to build that again. That's how we got there. It started in 2009. And yeah, it's depleting pretty fast now.
Councillor Tadman?
Thank you, Mayor. And it's incident-based, eh? So if we make all our residents behave and don't have to call the police all the time, then we get a rebate.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. So both the mayor and myself sit on the police services board. We don't hear from them that they don't have the officers to meet our needs. I think it would be good to maybe hear from them as far as, and I think we've done this before, as far as what it would look like to have some enhanced services. It is very costly. I think with policing, we often hear complaints, but I think sometimes we want them everywhere that we want them to be, and that's impossible. And I just want to make sure that if we're going to enhance, that we're doing it at a level that is reasonable and is actually needed. I guess that's my comment. We can listen to what a lot of people say, but until we actually hear it from them, and they're the ones who are out on a daily basis, and find out from them what really is needed. That would be the only way I could look at making a change.
My recollection from the delegation that came from the OPP last year was that they didn't recommend or not recommend enhanced service. They just offered us the suite. So for $174,000, the municipality gets an additional 2 officers for the yearly contract. And they don't want to weigh in. I think the deal is they don't want to weigh in on a political decision. They know what the minimum is. The province sets the minimum. But for an additional 2 officers, we could enhance our police force by 2 for $174,000. And thank you, Councillor LeBlanc, for reminding us of that number. I appreciate that. So I'd like to go around the table and just ask the question, are we satisfied status quo? Enhancement, or should we put some money into a reserve for enhancement in a future year so that we can draw those monies out and buffer any enhancement we get at some point, which is often what we do when we know there's going to be a significant expenditure coming up. We would put so many thousands of dollars away so that it's not a big hit in that first year when we go with the enhancement. So Deputy Mayor, I'll start with you since you're right in front of me.
Sorry, I think I'd like to stick with things the way they are right now. And I think it's something we need to revisit each year and make a decision. But I'm not comfortable looking at increasing for next year. If we want to start maybe creating a bit of a buffer so that it's easier to make that transition, I'm okay with that.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
That's a good point, Deputy Mayor. I think we need to start something anyhow. That's my point tonight, is that we need to, whether we do it this year or not, and in light of what's going on this year, it's probably not a popular decision, but I think it needs to be addressed at some point. And we're getting close. The population's we're expanding our neighborhoods, our subdivisions, everything else. It's a real chore for one officer to cover the entire municipality. I'm talking proper, not the 401. I'm talking just the municipality. I just bring up one other thing, and it might not be popular either, but with all these new bylaws that we're looking at, we have one bylaw officer.
Let's talk about that when we get to
I
the
know,
operational
but
budget. That's not part of the OPP contract.
No, it's not, but there are overlaps.
Right, but we can talk about enhanced bylaw during the
Sure,
operational budget.
sure. No,
in a
I'm
week
just
or
saying
so.
it's, if we're going to.
Something to think about.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. The only, I just.
So what's your answer, Counselor? Do you want to go with what the,
Well, I haven't been asked, what do I want to go with?
So the question is status quo, enhanced service at 174, or put some money into reserve for a future year.
I think we need to put money into a reserve for future years, but if anyone else, anybody else in the community feels that it should happen, I want to hear about it.
Very
Yeah.
well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor LeBlanc.
I don't think this is the year to do it. I would have done it last year, but this year with the COVID and adding more taxes to people, and if they wanted to take the 174,000 out of reserve to give it a try for 1 year to see what it, I'd be in favor of that. But to add to that tax base, I wouldn't be in favor of that. Thank you.
So I'm marking you as status quo. Councillor Bateman.
For this year, I don't want to say status quo because we're talking about, we've all heard the complaints about speeding all over the streets. I don't want that to be status quo. I'm in favor of keeping the budget amount this year the same as last year, but if I can add, I'd like to see us maybe start thinking outside of the box, because throwing people at a problem and throwing money at a problem doesn't always solve the problem. I think we might have to start at some point thinking outside the box on how you reduce people from speeding instead of just the enforcement part, because if you don't reduce them from speeding, they're still speeding. All you did was catch them and maybe give them a ticket, but they were still speeding, so that impact of somebody getting hurt is still there, even with increased enforcement, unless you get them to slow down. And this comment might not make me popular, but when we look at the development charge, and somebody made the comment that our subdivisions are growing, maybe that can be a component of a development charge where there's a 0.5% or 1% that goes to a police fund, so that we can look at that. As our community grows, we've never
That's certainly
that in.
something I'm sure Ms. Whitfield would bring up with a DC consultant when we reopen those coming up. Good idea. Councillor Rowley.
Sorry. I'm certain, I think I would be in favor of putting something away into a reserve, regardless. It doesn't need to be 174 for two police officers next year or anything like that. But I think we need to look towards maybe one next year. I have two questions. Do we have like a community safety reserve or anything, Linda, that we could, I mean, it would be flopping from one to another. I get that, but we don't have anything like that where we could take anything out to just kind of earmark for policing. My other question would be this year, because we had no event.
Can we let the director answer that question?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, she shook her head, so I just kind of got that.
No, we don't have a community safety reserve.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley.
Okay. So my next question would be, would we expect some kind of a rebate, although you said maybe we don't get one, as far as we didn't have, police escorts this year for Apple Fest, or we won't have anything for a Christmas parade. Those hours, I'm sure, are they calculated into kind of the whole budget for the year, or if we don't have that, do they bill that back and we get a bit of a bonus for that, or probably not?
Yeah, if they don't use all their hours and their actuals come in lower than what they've charged us, then they will rebate us back that money in a future year. Not necessarily next year.
Maybe. Keeping in mind that most of that force, I see the deputy mayor, but I've got to go to Councillor Tadman first, and then I'll come over to you. Most of those duties are dealt with by auxiliary, which do not get paid the full freight of a regular constable, right? So it won't be, don't be looking for thousands and thousands of dollars here. Yeah.
For a few hours. I just wasn't sure how that works. So that comes out of their auxiliary.
It was the big discussion around Remembrance Day and how do we worry about that, because normally that's dealt with by auxiliary, and we think there might be a few auxiliary out tomorrow, but they can't ask for them to come out because the province has said the auxiliary are to be kept at home unless they really want to. So
Okay. Yeah. So just to go back,
Yeah.
I'm in favor of
Yeah.
creating some kind of a reserve regardless of how many dollars that ends up
Thank you.
being.
And Councillor Tadman, I have you down under status quo.
You're very good, Mayor.
Hope someone wrote that down. Deputy Mayor, you had a comment.
Sure, just a couple things.
He'll be back,
First of
it's
all,
okay.
Applefest pays for our auxiliary officers. Doesn't come out of our
Deputy Mayor,
regular.
could you start again? You blanked out on it. You didn't blank out. We blanked out on you.
Yeah, it's you guys that have the problem. I'm fine over here. Applefest pays for their auxiliary officers for Applefest Day. It doesn't come out of our regular Brighton budget. And I'm sure that's the case with any event when we ask for auxiliary officers to be there. So that's number one. Number two, we keep talking about as our community grows, but are we not provided policing based on the size of our community? And perhaps, so as we grow, is not our budget already going to grow for that because they have to provide more policing? That's my question. That's my assumption, but if someone can confirm that. And the last one is we keep hearing that there's sometimes just one officer for our entire community. And I find that hard to believe. I don't think we're paying for just one officer for our whole community. And I would love confirmation as to whether that's correct or not as well.
So that comment it's not one officer for the entire community. We have I think it's 12 or 14 dedicated officers for Brighton. Of course, there's shifts. They all work on different shifts, so you have to split those numbers up. But there have been days when there has been only one officer patrolling because of illness or long-term disability issues or vacation time. So scheduling has become awkward during this summer, especially because officers who got sick were being told to go home and isolate for 2 weeks until they knew whether or not they were clear from COVID-19. So it was a tough year for scheduling for everyone.
Okay.
I mean, the OPP aren't any different than anyone else.
I just want it clear that we don't just have one officer on duty all the time in Brighton. I think we need that's. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, and I think your question about contract to the size of the community is a good one to be brought up at our Police Services Board meeting, which I will make a note to do, and I'm sure you will as well.
Okay.
So we have. Just for the record, I would be in favor of starting a reserve for future enhancement, but there are 4 people who want to go with the existing service for this year anyway, and we'll revisit this next year and go with the police contract as it stands, unless there are $1.8 million. Which brings us down to Quinte Access. Last year was 32,548. This year's 33,525. There's an asterisk beside that, so I think that means it's an assumed amount. Ms. Whitfield?
Yes, we didn't receive a budget from Quinte Access or from Quinte Economic Development. So we have highlighted them by putting an asterisk.
What is your estimate? I mean, we see the number, but what's the percentage estimate?
I estimated 3%.
Thank you. And who's our Are you, Councillor Tadman, you're the rep on Quinny Access. Do you know when their budget might come through?
Yes, hopefully on Monday, but they've had two people that really got hurt badly, that one's in the hospital, one's taking rehab. So it's been very hard to get a quorum. So I think Monday we'll be able to.
Do you think 3%'s, you don't know? Okay.
We haven't had a meeting, so I don't know what's going on.
Well, we'll just wait and see what the real number looks like on that. Lower Trent, we know the number. We had a presentation this evening, went from 159,409 to 170,213. Any discussion on that? Councillor Rowley?
I'd like to go back to Quinny Access for a minute, if that's okay. My question being, do we pay that, is that totally taken out of the gas tax? That we subsidize Quinny Access by, or is that tax dollars?
That's all tax dollars. So the gas tax that we receive goes to the city of Quinny West. It's provincial gas tax. It's different than the gas tax, the federal gas tax we use for our projects. And we partnered with City of Quinny West many years ago by an agreement.
Right.
And the province was involved in that agreement. So all the funding goes there.
So
this is over and above.
Okay, that's my question then. So they get all of our provincially funded gas tax plus this.
Correct.
Thank you.
And the provincially funded gas tax pays for that accessibility service that the municipality, that citizens can garner. Is that correct?
I've never seen what they receive on the provincial gas tax. I've not been able to ever find that dollar amount, or it has to do with ridership, and there's different components, and I can't seem to get anyone to nail that down for us. I'm sorry.
Well, perhaps we could have someone from Quinny Access come at some point and talk to us about that.
Yes, and Shelley, who is the CEO of Quinny Access, would be glad to come and explain it all. Don't ask me to.
I wouldn't.
It's it is complicated, and I understand it at the moment, and then it goes
Well,
afterwards because
if-
there's an awful lot of.
If you are able to meet on Monday, would you mind
I'll
asking
ask.
Shelley?
Yes,
Yeah,
certainly.
that would be great for her to come and explain all that to us and
And
provide
maybe
the suite of services.
you also had Candace ask different the outside external agencies to come. Can we do that again with Quinny Access? Can we get Candace to?
I see the clerk is making a note, so I'm assuming the
Yeah,
answer is yes.
because Shelley has come every other year, I think. It's just really hard time this year with what's going on.
Everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah.
Going to move down to Lower Trent now. Everyone okay with that? Yeah, go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Bateman, but they also froze their wages. Wasn't that correct? Yes. Keep it down. So I thought that was very good of them. Also, I think everybody needs to be aware, but probably everybody here is, that we do have really two nice conservation areas here in Brighton that are well used and people really enjoy. And the school program is great when it's not COVID. So that's another area.
Any other comments or questions on Lower Trent? Councillor Rowley?
I'm just going to send mine via email to Rhonda. And I mean, they're mandated, to provide so much services, right? But when we were looking at kind of backing everyone down, and as you mentioned earlier, that all of the agencies were asked to come in at 0, Lower Trent came in at 6%. Now, 6% is, it's maybe significant when we're all trying to cut back. So I just have a couple of questions for Rhonda, and then if I'm satisfied with some explanations, I guess that would be fine.
And we're mandated to pay this budget item. We can't decide willy-nilly not to pay it. The only way we could do that would be to make an appeal to the ministry. Is that correct?
Well, there is an act, the Conservation Authorities Act, and it's noted on page 3 of 4 on the presentation, and it says that as per the Conservation Authorities Act, section 27.1(1), there's a 30-day period to appeal the levy apportionment to the Mining Lands Commissioner. So that is your option.
I assume we'd have to wait for the final budget to be passed before we could do that, though. And has that happened? Has this budget been passed officially? Because we're looking at a draft from October 22nd.
I believe that was 1.87, the increase.
Operationally,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
They didn't
yeah.
have
But with the capital, it's almost 7%. Sorry, I'm not sure I heard an answer to my question. Has the budget been passed? Like, we're reading a draft budget. The draft was passed October 8th.
Yeah, we passed the budget. Yeah.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, thank you.
I just want to add, it's too bad that the Zoom wasn't working. I know Rhonda, when she was done her presentation, her and I could speak quite freely still. And she was anxious to be able to answer questions. So I'm sure she would be happy to answer any questions by email that council may have.
Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not here for a question. When you look at what we're paying for consultant fees now in planning or through Department of Public Works and what we do and what the Lower Trent does for us, instead of hiring consultants for $170,000 is relatively cheap for all the work and everything that they do for us for our planning and helping us get ahead. Because you just gotta, if you do a ratio and proportion for the planning costs and basically design fees and everything, at $170,000 is relatively cheap for what they do for us.
And do we have a sense, and I guess I'd look to Councillors Bateman and Tadman, do we have a sense of what the province is cutting back on and what this might look like in future years? For the mandates, for the conservation mandates?
I don't think they've relayed the overall cutbacks. They had a 50%, I think it was 50% cut overall, and they're still waiting to find out what their core mandate will be.
Right, okay.
And what they can do with that 50%.
Yeah, they're still waiting. So they leave the conservation areas, so kind of in the lurch because they don't even know that this is a one-time cut or is this going to be every year from now on?
Right.
But there's been a lot of pushback. So maybe they coming up close to another election might think twice that maybe conservation areas are important.
Very well. So everybody comfortable with 172.13?
Mayor, I will say that we do have a meeting on Thursday, so if there's any new information, we can bring it back for the next meeting.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And we're going to ask some questions of the Conservation Authority, so we'll just wait to see what answers we get back there. There you go. Quinny Economic Development Commission, from $46,627 to $48,026. That's an assumed 3%. Today's QEDC meeting alerts us to the fact that it'll probably be in the 2% range. So this number is well governed for whatever we may see coming forward. And that would just be cost of living things for wages. There's no anticipation of any conferences or anything like that moving forward at this stage anyway. And DBIA is revenue in, revenue out. They are levied, they have their own levy, so to speak. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. So that's our external budget at $2,600,286, and our grants and aid is as it is. We'll ask some questions of the Conservation Authority, but I think if we roll these into our operational budget, we can have that further discussion as we continue down our budgetary discussion road. Ms. Whitfield.
So these amounts under Schedule B are already included in your 0% budget?
Very well.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Would it be practical after that poor presentation that poor Rhonda got cheated out of to ask her to come back? Maybe she could come back, or did you get in touch with her?
Madam Clerk?
Rhonda was originally scheduled to come to our next council meeting, November the 16th. But I asked her to come tonight instead, just because we were discussing the budget. So I can ask her if she can come back. Like, she had planned on coming here and doing a presentation.
Ask her if she'd be comfortable coming here and doing the presentation.
Okay, I'll do that.
I think live is better
Yeah,
than.
because she wasn't going to come
not.
through Zoom
Yeah.
at the next meeting. But we just thought that it would be better for her to come when we were doing budget.
Right. Yeah, I think everybody needs to be educated on what Lower Trent does, because there's a lot of different areas that they work in, and they're mandated to do, like risk management. We talked about that, I think, last year, but all kinds of other things too, like the Bay of Quinte remedial action. So I think you will find it quite interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to Councillor Tadman's point, this is not to appeal or, as I say, negotiate what's going on, but sometimes there's just questions, like I said, in the presentation that she gave us or the presentation that she made, which was kind of foggy. I didn't get everything. So it's certainly not to, tie her hands or anything, but just some clarification questions.
Thank you. So we have discussed and deliberated the external budgets, including grants and aid. The grants and aid will be rolled into the operational budget for further future discussions. Is there anything further before I move on to question period? So we move on to question period. Now is an opportunity for anyone in the public gallery to ask questions with anything that was on our agenda this evening. Mrs. Richardson.
So it's not exactly listed at the agenda, but it's in the handout that we got tonight. So
That's part of the agenda.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you very much.
Yep.
It's on page 20 in regards to Docks by the Bay. Your Worship, I was hoping that perhaps before the lease was, or the agreement with Docks by the Bay was renewed at a cost of $25,000, that perhaps you and council would consider discussing not going with Docks by the Bay and opening up, going back to our own recruitment committee. As an orphan patient, again, for the fourth time, I was recently speaking to Healthcare Connect, and the doctor that was recently signed on in Trenton, recruited by Docks by the Bay. Healthcare Connect was on the understanding that she was going to take on some of Dr. Bishop's and Larmer's patients. She opened her practice and said she was only going to take people that resided in Trenton. Now we're helping fund that. So I think Godrich, Ontario, of a population of 8,000 people, if they can get 18 family physicians, there's a lot of stuff in there that they have done that we could do to help get doctors here. We have got thousands of people that here that don't have a doctor. There's many, many things that if you look on their outline, what they have done to bring in those family doctors to those small towns. And if any of you just read recently in the Northumberland, Dr. Amanda, is it May, the chiropractor across from the municipal building, they just interviewed her and why she came to a small town. She would be ideal person to be on your recruitment committee and to outline what the great, why she came to Brighton, why she's staying here in Brighton, why Brighton is so great. And I think it's really, really something to consider that if we do go back to it's legal that we could have in the lease that the doctors say that they will only take patients from Brighton, because I do know for a fact that previously they did take them from Trenton. It's just something that I hope that you will consider. The doctors have been such an issue for the last 5 years here, and it's just not going away and it's not getting any better. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is something that's in the operational budget. Is that what I'm looking at? So we will discuss that at the next meeting. That will be part of our deliberations at the next meeting during operations.
I didn't want to miss it.
I appreciate you highlighting it.
Okay, thank you
I
very
think it's
much.
a good
Your
idea.
Worship. Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the public? There's no in-camera session this evening. I have a motion moved by Councillor Tadman, second by Councillor Bateman, that the November 10th Committee of the Whole Budget meeting adjourn at 8:06 PM. Is there any discussion? Councillor Bateman?
If you'll permit, just so I can, if we backtrack to Lower Trent, just so I can update you. There was a letter circulated, I think it went to the municipality, and the CAO is not here. It has all the stuff and Rhonda's contact information in there, or the levy information if you wanted to ask questions. I can forward it to all the council if you like. And if this date is right, that is a draft, and it'll come before the Board of Directors on December 10th.
Okay, that's so the final budget will be
On
approved
December
on
10th,
December
correct.
10th. Okay, thank you. And I think the decision was we would send all of our questions for Lower Trent to Ms. Whitfield, who would then compile them and send them off to, not to distill them in any way, but just to make sure we're not asking the same question over and over again. And also to make sure council receives the answers, all of council receives the answers back. I think that's the wise way to do it. Anything further on the motion? Y'all want to stick around longer? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. Drive safely home, everyone.